Now, talking about biases, I would first like to note on privilege. Because in these discussions, we very often focus on the lack of privilege that we have. But we should also talk about the privileges that we do have. So, for example, I am LGBT, I'm a female. That comes with lack of privilege, but I'm also white. I'm able-bodied, I come from a Western European middle-class background, and I had a male upbringing, which means no one ever told me I couldn't do math. No one ever told me I couldn't do science. I wasn't stopped or talked out of going into research. That's a great advantage that I had, especially over other female colleagues that I do have. Now, talking about the lack of privilege and bias that I experience, it's very hard to say. That's the way unconscious bias works. There's hardly ever hard proof. And if my paper gets rejected or if my grant gets rejected, there's thousands of reasons why that could happen. Unconscious bias or even conscious bias is just one of them. So I can't say, oh, this happened because I'm LGBT, this happened because I'm female, this paper is cited less because I'm female, because there's thousands of other reasons for that. But we do have statistics, and we do have a feeling and personal interaction that actually leads our way. Now, there's things that happen like difficulty in finding students, difficulty in establishing new collaborations, generally being seen as less competent. That is a fact. There's not all going in one direction. There's also bias in the other direction. It was quite surprising for me when it started that suddenly, we need a female person on that panel. Oh, we want to be inclusive. We need someone who's LGBT. Let's ask Tanja. Voila, here I am. It's definitely a mixed bag, and I haven't found a really good way to deal with that yet. Very simple. That's a fact. The Royal Society of Chemistry even recently did a report on that. They analyzed their own journal articles, and it shows very clearly female researchers are rejected more often, they tend to go to lower impact factor journals, and they are cited less. It's a fact, we don't have to discuss about that. It's an excellent report. I recommend everybody to read that. I did. For private sacrifice, out of respect of my children, I'd like to not talk about that. In terms of professional sacrifice, yes. It's a bit hard to say, is it this and that? Often there's multiple reasons why things happened. But generally, being trans, being female now has destroyed some of my relations. My network's not the same as it used to be 2 years ago. Very important for me. Actually, one of the reasons to move to Australia was to move to a country where the discussion around unconscious bias is a lot more mature, and where do not have to start from scratch to explain things. Western Europe isn't all bad, but countries like Australia or the US are definitely much more advanced in these discussions. It makes things easier for me here. There's much more I could say, but in view of time, I should conclude. And what I want to say really at the end is it's very, very important to raise awareness for unconscious bias, and not just for one thing, but to raise unconscious bias on different levels. There is intersectionality. So yes, there is a bias against against females in the male-female debate, but what about a female researcher of color? What about a non-able-bodied researcher? What about an LGBT researcher who might be male? they also suffer from discrimination and unconscious bias. Let's put that together and understand it's not just a singularity, it happens on many different levels. And the mechanisms behind there are always the same. Very, very important to understand. And last but not least, let's talk about language. I think it's very important to develop inclusive language because that's where all it starts. Language shapes our thinking, and as long as we don't have inclusive language, it will be much, much harder to fight unconscious biases in thinking. And that's where I would like to end, and I thank you.